Hi, welcome to Dr. Joe Academy reading and writing class. Sorry for the late start. We'll just extend class by 2 minutes. I think most of you were here. Ethan, I don't think you were here last week. We were supposed to do the book review. We'll continue with that next week. I just wanted to make sure I gave it as a 1 week grace period or a reminder period to make sure everyone brings a book for next week instead of this week. And instead, we'll get started off with some vocab and then a short lesson on this one literary device, and then we're getting into a creative writing prompt, and then a short story. Most of the themes are closely related to Christmas. I know Christmas is more around next week, but next week ahead of time, we'll just know that we're dedicating majority of the class to writing a book review on any book of your choice. As you can tell, this class as well as next week's class is a little bit more easygoing compared to usual just because of the holidays as well. So we'll start off with the vocab. Ethan, can you go ahead and read oh, honestly, I forgot to share the link. Let me send that first. Oh, and just to make sure everyone could hear me as well as see the Google Slides presentation, can you please type 1 in the chat? Okay, perfect. And I just sent in the link so you could join into the Google Slides. Ethan, can you go ahead and read the first word?
Yeah, glyph, noun, a symbol or character often engraved or inscribed, used to convey meaning in ancient or modern scripts. The ciphering of the forgotten glyph reveals secrets of a long-lost civilization.
Okay, and Nathan, can you go ahead and read the second word? Ethan?
Uh, Gossamer, a delicate, light, and almost translucent substance often used to describe flowing in the air. A bride's veil was crafted from gossamer, hmm, lending her an ethereal presence.
Yeah, ethereal. And just wanted to go over the pronunciation. Gossamer. Again, one more time. Gossamer. Good job. And Annabelle, can you go ahead and read the next word?
Gravitas, noun. A serious and dignified demeanor or manner, often commanding respect and authority. The speaker's gravitas imbued the discussion with an air of significance and urgency.
Okay, and Austin, can you go ahead and read the next word? I also sent it the link just in case you didn't join into the Google Slides yet.
All right, grandiloquence.
No, we're on the third word right now.
Oh,
No, no,
gravitas.
wait. No, I'm sorry. No, it was the last word. That was my bad. Yeah, can you go ahead and read the last word?
Grandiloquence, noun, a pompous or extravagant style of speech or expression, often used to impress or inflate one's importance. A politician's grandiloquence overshadowed the substance of his message, leaving the audience.
Okay, good job. I just want to go over the pronunciation. The word would be pronounced grandiloquence. Again, grandiloquence. All right, we'll move on to the next lesson. We're just taking a look at paradox. It's fairly simple, and it's something that we're going to be including in our creative writing activity that we get into right after this. So what is a paradox in writing? The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. This famous line is from Chuck Palahniuk's 1996 novel Fight Club, and it leaves an impression. Not only does it shroud the Fight Club in mystery, but it forces the reader to pause and think. Is he breaking the rules of Fight Club by talking about the rules of the Fight Club? It's an impervious circle and a perfect literary paradox. A paradox is a literary device that appears to contradict itself, but contains some truth, theme, or humor. Okay, and Annabelle, can you go ahead and read this slide?
What is a paradox? In literary paradoxes, something doesn't seem right. They are self-contradictory statements that defy logic in such a way that the reader's brain takes a pause. This apparent contradiction is the first layer of the paradox. The second layer of paradox is the truth behind it. With the reader's attention fixed on the paradox, they are encouraged to look for greater meaning in the statement. Typically, a writer wants the reader to have the smoothest reading experience possible. However, every once in a while, the writer wants the readers to stop and consider something more deeply. A paradox will do this.
Okay, and Austin, can you go ahead and read the next slide?
When to use paradox? The main purpose of a paradox is to get the reader to pause and then to think. I can resist everything except temptation, declares Lord Darlington in Oscar Wilde's 1893 play Lady Windermere's Fan. It sounds like Lord Darlington is describing his ability to resist temptation, unless that temptation is temptation. What he's actually saying in a humorous and roundabout way is that he cannot resist temptation. This is a paradoxical statement. Other authors use paradox to review deeper truths about character, as in William Shakespeare's Hamlet, 1599 to 1601. When Hamlet tells his mother, I must be cruel only to be kind. He is protecting her from the consequences of her actions. So although Hamlet's actions are harsh, his intentions are good. It's not a complete contradiction, even though it appears so at first, making a literary paradox.
Okay, and David, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Rules for writing a paradox. It takes a clever writer to create a good paradox, and like all good writing, it requires a little work. Even if it's a tricky task, the rules for writing a paradox are pretty simple. First, the statement must contain an apparent contradiction. Think in opposites. Second, there must be some sort of conclusion or truth that the reader discovers after some consideration. If your statement contains contradictions but ultimately makes no sense, it is not a literary paradox. It is either a logical.
Okay, and Ethan, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Okay, literary paradox versus logical paradox. A literary paradox doesn't make sense, doesn't make any sense, but only at first. The last part of that sentence, at first, is what distinguishes it from logical paradoxes. In a logical paradox, there's no solution. It defies the rules of logic. Literary paradoxes do have a conclusion, which is often reached through reason and requires just a little extra thought, exactly the writer's intention. Another major difference is that the message of the literary paradox is not found in its literal meaning. In fact, its literal meaning is often beside the point. For example, in Lewis Carroll's 1865 book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, A Wonderland of Alice's, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, there is a scene where the March Hare tells Alice to take more. I've had nothing yet, Alice replied in an offended tone, so I can't take more. You mean you can't take less, said the Hatter. It's very easy to take more than nothing. It's clear enough what Alice meant, but Carroll does not want the reader to think about whether Alice should drink some tea or not. The point of this paradox is the flimsiness of language that we take for granted and to provide a bit of humor. If this were a logical paradox, Alice and the March Hare might go back and forth forever, but that wouldn't make for a very fun book to read.
Okay, and Nathan, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Similar terms to paradox. There are many great literary devices that rely on opposition to create an effect on the reader. Some closely related terms are antithesis, using two things that are opposites but do not contradict one another. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong. This is an antithetical statement and a very poetic one at that. Armstrong uses juxtaposition, small step, giant leap, and man/mankind, but does not use any apparent contradictions. Oxymoron. Oxymorons are play with contradictions. However, the contradictions in paradoxes vs those in oxymorons happen on different scales. In two words, while a paradox is contradiction between sentences, phrases, or even entire books. In other words, as a contradiction turns and the paradox as a contradiction of ideas. Irony. Irony is a situation statement that turns a reader's expectation on its head. It is, in other words, exactly what you don't predict will happen. Of course, in real life, humans are full of contradictory and unpredictable behavior. So a scene that involves irony is both unpredictable and closer to real life, which will make it predictable. Is that a paradox?
And Liam, I just noticed that you joined in. Let me just send in the slides. I mean, the link to the slides. And Liam, can you go ahead and read this slide? We're just taking a look at paradox. I'll just go over all of the 4 words we took a look at right after this, but right now we're taking a look at the literary device paradox.
Wait, do I read this?
Yeah.
Examples of paradox in literature. Paradox happens on a variety of scales, from witty one linears to the plot of an entire book. Joseph Heller's 1961 novel Catch-22 is based entirely on a literary paradox and contains many smaller paradoxes. One of the paradoxes in the books is that only a crazy man would want to fly planes in a war, but only a sane man can. So if one of the characters wants to go to war, that means he's crazy and therefore cannot. But if he does not want to go to war, then he is sane and therefore will be sent. Oscar Wilde is famous for his one-line paradoxes. For example, the importance of being earnest. First performed in 1895, he writes, "To be natural is such a very difficult pose to keep up." Wilde uses paradox to gently and humorously push against social norms with this line. Wilde's character admits that appearing natural in his society is itself an unnatural act.
All right, so let's look at some frequently asked questions with paradox. We practically went over all 3 of this, but just to quickly go over it, especially for you, Liam. What is a paradox in writing? A paradox in writing is a statement that appears to contradict itself, but upon further inspection reveals a deeper truth, meaning, or joke. How is a paradox structured? A paradox can be a sentence, a phrase, or an entire book theme. It contains an apparent contradiction and a deeper truth. We're obviously going to be sticking with the sentence or a phrase. If you do want to make the entire theme of your story centered around a paradox, that is something that I would definitely say is excellent, but it would be more difficult. So it's up to you whether you want to take that challenge or not. If the contradiction is unsolvable, it's a logical paradox. If it happens at the level of individual words, so if it's under a sentence or a phrase, it is an oxymoron, where it's just 2 opposing words. So what is the purpose of a paradox? A paradox forces the reader to pause and think twice. Encountering seemingly contradictory elements, the reader must think critically to understand their meaning. All right, so this brings us into the creative writing prompt. As I mentioned, majority of today's class is kind of going to be centered around Christmas. So is this prompt as well. On Christmas Eve, the small town of Everpine is blanketed in an unusual, shimmering snowfall that seems to whisper secrets to anyone who listens closely. As the clock strikes midnight, a mysterious figure in a crimson cloak leaves an ancient, unmarked gift on each doorstep, with a note that simply reads, "Open when your heart believes." The next morning, the town awakes to a world transformed, but what they find inside the boxes changes everything that they thought they know about Christmas and themselves. So it is a really specific prompt, exactly like last week. This really allows us to skip away from time spent thinking about what to write about. Instead, you have everything right here in front of you. Make sure to include an example of paradox and include all 4 of the words. So Liam, the 4 words we took a look at is glyph. It's a symbol or character often engraved or inscribed. Gossamer, a delicate light and almost translucent substance. Gravitas, a serious and dignified demeanor or manner. Grandiloquence, a pompous or extravagant style. Before we get started with the creative writing prompt, does anyone have any questions? All right, so we'll spend 20 minutes on this, similar to last week. Right now the time is 7:17. We'll work on this until 7:37, almost around 7:40, but I'll be checking in around 7:30 to see how everything is going. If anyone has any questions at any point, feel free to ask me.
I suddenly can't type.
Okay, Annabelle, are you typing in the chat or like are you typing on the slides? Was that you who said it? I think it was you.
I was typing somewhere else.
All right, and what does it show when you're trying to type?
It just doesn't let me, like, it doesn't show anything.
Okay, do you want to try typing on a different why don't you try opening up Word document if you have Word document or Google Docs, or if anything, let me resend in the link and you could join into the Google Slides. You can type directly onto the slides. You can just copy and paste what you have so far and then continue working on the slides over here.
Teacher Kiasen.
Yeah.
So, my story is already based on like a fictional story that exists, but it's like building off of that. I take a much darker turn. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. As long as it's your own work that's added onto it, that's fine.
Okay.
And I wanted to check in with everyone else. Does anyone have any questions? All right, we have like about 12 more minutes until we take up this activity. And Annabelle, please let me know if you do get to get everything figured out. If you're still having any difficulties, please let me know at any point.
I like can't type anywhere.
Do you want to try restarting your computer and then joining in? I feel like that will definitely help fix the issue.
Okay.
Great. All right, the time is about to be 7:40. Can everyone please go ahead and start sending in their responses either through the chat or pasting it onto the slides? Okay, Nathan, can you go ahead and read your response?
I'm not finished yet.
All right, okay, we'll come back around to that. Everyone else, can you please go ahead and start sending it into the chat or pasting it onto the slides?
Okay, and there's I sent another part of it, so yeah.
Yeah. I'm just pasting that in as well. Give me a second.
Okay. This story is referring to the fictional story. The story is referring to a fictional story titled SCP-4666, The Yule Man, where a mysterious entity harasses a family for 12 nights, either ending in the murder of the entire family except the youngest child who was abducted, or a dark gift being left, such as a flute made from a femur. Jim rose up in his bed, rubbing his eyes. Today was Christmas Day. The soft pit-pat of the foxes in the snow outside irritated him. He stepped onto the cold, creaky wooden floorboards. Jim padded to the kitchen, his small feet eager for a glass of milk before the big Christmas morning festivities. The soft hum of the fridge broke the silence as he opened it. His breath fogging the cold air inside, he grabbed the carton, gulped straight from it, and wiped his mouth. Jim, you'll ruin your breakfast, his mom's voice called from the living room, where the rest of the family was already stirring. Grinning, he ran towards the Christmas tree, where his older sister Becky and his parents were gathered. The warm glow of the lights reflected off the neatly wrapped presents stacked beneath the tree. Jim, come on, we're opening gifts, Becky exclaimed, shaking a box. His dad handed him a gift with his name on it, but as Jim tore through the wrapping paper, his mom froze, her eyes fixed on something nestled beneath the lowest branches of the tree. Did one of you put that there? She asked, her voice trembling. Jim stopped, his gift forgotten as he followed her gaze. There, just beneath the tree, was something they hadn't noticed before, a strange, unwrapped object. It was a candle holder, its base made from what was unmistakably a human skull. Wax dripped from both candles, pooled in the hollow of the eye socket.
All right, really good job with the response. I just want to go over some points of improvement. Starting off with the tone consistency. While the story builds a festive Christmas morning, the shift to horror could be more gradual to enhance tension. Consider adding subtle hints of unease earlier, like an odd smell, a cold draft, or the fox is acting strange. Character reactions. The family's reaction to the skull could be more expanded, show more fear or disbelief. How do they physically and emotionally respond to such a macabre object? This will make the horror more impactful. Description of the skull. The candle holder is chilling, but you could add more sensory details. How does the skull look up? Close. Cracks, discoloration, and does it smell burnt wax or something foul? Build suspense. After discovering the skull, slow the pacing slightly. For example, Becky could hesitate to approach it, or Jim's parents could argue quietly about what to do next, letting the dread simmer. Foreshadowing. Introduce small details that connect to the SCP-4666 theme earlier, like unexplained footprints in the snow, whispers at night, or missing items to make the twist feel earned and cohesive. And David, do you have any questions about the provided feedback?
No.
Okay, and Annabelle, can you go ahead and read your response?
The town of Everpine was experiencing Christmas Eve. People wrapped in thick sweaters were hurrying along the streets, and wreaths and lights were hung on every house. Everything seemed normal. As evening fell, snow started falling. The town was soon blanketed in an unusual shimmering snowfall that seemed to whisper to anyone who listened closely. Few people were out at that time, so no one noticed or cared about the unnatural snow. However, as the town's clock struck midnight, a mysterious man dropped a single note on every doorstep that read, "Open when your heart believes." The next morning, the town wakes up to Christmas Day. Everyone is excited to open their presents. However, when they open their boxes, they are all empty. No one knows what happened, but one fact is known for sure, that Christmas isn't what they think it is.
Okay, good job with your response. I just want to go over some points of feedback. Give me a second. Okay, Annabelle, to further improve the story, you can build on the atmosphere. The mysterious snowfall and the midnight events are intriguing, but you could add more sensory details to make them vivid. For example, describe how the snow whispers. Does it sound like voices, wind, or faint music? Clarify the note's role. The note saying "open when your heart believes" is a key element, but its significance is unclear. Does it relate to the empty boxes? You can add a hint or a clue about what it means, creating a stronger connection to the theme. Pacing. The story moves quickly from setup to resolution. Consider slowing down the moment when people discover the empty boxes. Describe their confusion, disappointment, or panic to make the reveal more impactful. Character involvement. The story feels broad and generalized. Consider introducing one or two key characters to follow through the events. Perhaps a child excited for Christmas or an adult grappling with the strange occurrence. Their perspective will add emotional depth and help readers connect to the mystery. Resolution or twist. The story ends abruptly. To leave a lasting impression, consider an ambiguous twist or a small clue about the mysterious man's purpose. For example, someone does believe and their box isn't empty, or the shimmering snow begins to fall again, hinting that the mystery isn't over. And Annabelle, do you have any questions about the provided feedback?
No.
All right. And Austin, Liam, and Ethan, can you please all make sure you're sending in your responses as well? And Nathan, can you go ahead and read your response?
On Christmas Eve, the small town located in an unusual shimmering snowfall that seems to whisper secrets to anyone who listens closely. Nobody knew a fight. The air was flat. That they heard a sound. It said, "If you open your Christmas present during Christmas, then the box will be empty." A few hours later, a mysterious figure in crimson cloak leaves an ancient unmarked gift on each doorstep. People didn't know it was a People didn't know it was a glyph. They thought it was just something random. The next day, the people opened their boxes. The children completely forgot the voice. The boxes were empty.
All right, Nathan, good job with your response. I just want to go over some points of feedback. Clarity and flow. The sequence of events feel a bit disjointed. Consider connecting the snowball fight, the mysterious voice, and the note more smoothly. For example, explain how the children react to the voice or how it spreads to others in town. Details and atmosphere. Add more sensory details to enhance the mood. Describe the snow shimmer, the mysterious voice's tone. Was it a whisper, a hum, or eerie? And how the town feels when the clock strikes midnight. This will build suspense. Glyph explanation. The mention of a glyph feels abrupt and underdeveloped. Clarify what it means or provide hints of its significance earlier to avoid confusion. Perhaps someone notices strange markings on the note or the boxes. Character reactions. Show how people react when they discover the boxes are empty. Are they confused, frightened, or dismissive? Adding their emotional responses will make the story more engaging. The children and the voice. Since the children hear the warning, emphasize how they forget it. You could describe their excitement on Christmas morning, overwhelming their memory of the voice to add irony and tension. Okay, and let me just go ahead and, oh, Nathan, do you have any questions about the provided feedback? All right, so Austin, I'm thinking you might have thought this was a breakdown of a story rather than the short story itself. But that is fine. You can just still go ahead and read your response. Austin, can you go ahead and read your response?
Okay. The setting is in the small town of Everpine, nestled in a valley surrounded by snow-capped mountains. Christmas Eve transforms the quaint community into a winter wonderland with twinkling lights and the sweet scent of pine filling in the air. On this magical night, an unusual shimmering snowfall blankets the town, creating an enchanting atmosphere that whispers secrets to those who listen closely. Plot summary: as midnight strikes, a mysterious figure in a crimson cloak silently traverses the streets, leaving unmarked gifts on every doorstep, each accompanied by a note that reads, "Open where your heart believes." The next morning, the townspeople awaken to discover these gifts. As they gather in the town square, they feel an unexplainable urge to open them, leading to a day of transformation and self-discovery that challenges everything they knew about Christmas and themselves. Key themes: the gifts each resident opens contain items that reflect their deepest desires and hidden truths, symbolizing personal transformation and the power of belief. Through these revelations, the townspeople confront their past, leading to personal growth and a renewed understanding of what Christmas truly means, emphasizing that belief in magic, love, and community can change lives. Character arcs: Emily, a single mother, discovers her hidden talent for painting through her gift, inspiring her to pursue her passion. Mr. Thompson, the town's grumpy old man, finds a letter from his late wife that encourages him to reconnect with loved ones, and young couples Sophie and Liam reignite their love by rediscovering their shared dreams through their gifts, illustrating the impact of belief and connection. The climax is as the townspeople share their experiences, they believe their gifts are interconnected, leading to a powerful moment of unity and understanding. The mysterious figure in the crimson cloak reappears, revealing themselves as the spirit of Christmas, guiding the town toward a deeper appreciation of love and community. Conclusion is by the end of the day, Everpine transforms into a community reborn through love, acceptance, and belief in one another, culminating in a heartfelt celebration that reflects the true spirit of Christmas. As night falls and the shimmering snowfall resumes, the townspeople look up in gratitude and hope, realizing that the magic of the life lies in the connections they share.
All right, so since isn't exactly a story, it's a little bit more difficult to get feedback, but it is fine. For homework, like when everyone does kind of go over and apply their feedback, instead you could try forming this into a story. So foreshadow the gifts, correction. Sorry, let me just make this bigger. Yeah, foreshadow the gifts connection. Add small clues earlier, like share symbols on the gifts or similar dreams among the townspeople to make the climax feel more cohesive. Enhance character moments. Show key emotional beats, like Emily's awe, holding a paintbrush, or Mr. Thompson's trembling hand as he reads his wife's letter. This adds depth without extra length. Build suspense. Add a brief hesitation from some characters before opening their gifts to create tension and make the moment of discovery more impactful. Tighten the reveal. Give the mysterious figure a stronger poetic presence. Perhaps they speak in riddles or appear familiar, leaving their identity subtly ambiguous. Strengthen the ending. End with a lingering mystery or reflective line like a whisper on the wind. The magic will return when you believe again. I just want to let everyone know, instead of reading the short story that we had planned earlier, since this is taking much longer than expected, we're going to go through all the feedback and then we're going to continue working on the book review from last week. So I'm going to change around the slides as soon as we're done going through all the activities. If you do want to start working on your book review, it would be a great time to do so. I'm just going to copy and paste the slides exactly from last week and paste it over here. And we're just going to continue with the activity. And yeah, we'll just proceed with the take up in the meantime. But if you do want to get started, everyone, you can feel free to do so right now. We just have 2 more stories that we're going to go over, and then we'll proceed with time dedicated to just that activity, the book review. And Liam, can you go ahead and read your response?
On Christmas Eve, the small town of Everpine is blanketed in an unusual shimmering snowfall that seems to whisper secrets to anyone who listens closely. As the clock strikes midnight, a mysterious figure wearing a crimson cloak goes to everyone's door steps. Wait. Oh shoot. And places a mysterious present. There was a glyph engraved on every single present, each different from each other. Soon it was morning, and the villagers woke up to find the mysterious presents in front of their houses. At first, they were hesitant, but soon they opened the mysterious presents, and to their horror, they found a letter which was covered in gossamer. Rumors started to spread about this mysterious person, and so did the letter in the present. There was a single word and a code in every single box. As they matched the numbers and words, they found out that the secret message was telling them that a creature that was sealed away hundreds of years ago by their ancestors during Christmas was coming back tonight. After an hour had passed, people started recruiting soldiers to fight the creature. If you did not sign up, you were considered a wimp, but if you were to join, you were considered out of your mind.
All right, great job with your response. I just want to go over some points of feedback. Clarify the stakes earlier. The discovery of the glyphs and the creator's return the creature's return is dramatic, but the buildup feels rushed. Add a brief moment of suspense when the villagers first notice the glyphs, emphasizing their confusion and unease before opening the boxes. Strengthen pacing. The transition from discovering the message to preparing for battle happens quickly. Slow it down slightly by showing the townspeople's reactions, including panic, disbelief, or denial, to make the threat feel more real and urgent. Describe the atmosphere. Use sensory details to heighten tension and fear. For example, describe how the snowfall feels colder and the glyphs glow faintly, or the air grows heavy as the townspeople decode the message. Character response. Show a mix of reaction from its villagers Some could scoff, calling it a prank, while others panic or rally to fight. Highlighting these responses will add realism and emotional weight to the story. Recruitment conflict. Expand on the pressure to join the fight. Describe villagers arguing, neighbors calling each other cowards, or a young character grappling with the decision to fight or flee. This will create strong internal conflict and raise the stakes. All right, and let's go over the last response. And as I mentioned, everyone can go ahead and get started on the book review. You just have to give me until this take up, and I'll paste in the slides as well. And Ethan, can you go ahead and read your response? Let me just make this bigger.
All right. Every year on Christmas Eve, the town of Everpine would experience a strange, unsettling phenomenon. At midnight, time would rewind exactly 1 hour. The first few years, people assumed it was just a quirk of fate, something no one could explain. When as the years passed, town's residents began to notice something wrong. Demetrius XVII, the town's mayor for as long as anyone could remember, stood at the center of Everpine Square, the cold biting at his skin as the town's clock tower struck 12. His eyes flicked to the townspeople around him, the baker, the blacksmith, their children, and they were all smiling. A slow, wide grin that stretched just a little too far, like something that had been sewn into their faces. Something unnatural, something wrong. And in that moment, Demetrius understood. The clock wasn't a timer, it was a trap. The thing that it wasn't The thing was that it wasn't time that rewound. It was that it never moved forward. The town was bound to this hour forever, but not him. Oh, I think I kind of went off topic.
All right, Ethan, good job with your response. I just want to go over some points of improvement. So clarify the concept. The idea of time rewinding versus being stuck in 1 hour is intriguing, but slightly confusing. Clarify this earlier to ensure readers grasp the distinction. Perhaps show Demetrius noticing the same events repeating perfectly, creating a creeping sense of deja vu. Build suspense gradually. The unnatural smiles are chilling but appear abruptly. Foreshadow this moment with subtle details like townspeople moving in unison, their laughter sounding hollow, or the cold feeling unnaturally sharp to build tension. Character focus. Demetrius is key to the story, but his emotional response feels underdeveloped. Show his fear, confusion, or dawning horror as he realizes he's only one aware of the trap. Does he feel isolated, desperate, or determined to escape? Atmosphere and tone. Add sensory details to amplify the eerie setting. Describe the clock's chimes echoing unnaturally loud, the biting cold numbing his skin, or the flickering lanterns casting distorted shadows across the square. Resolution or hook. The ending is intriguing but sudden. Consider ending with a strong hook or ambiguous ending. Why is Demetrius unaffected? Is there a price for his freedom? Or does he realize escaping might unleash something worse? All right, so right now the time is 8:02. I'm going to paste the slides and go over everything again, but we'll work on this approximately until 8:25. But until 8:20. So about 18 minutes or 17 minutes, but let me paste in the slides first. All right, so as introduced last week, this is fairly simple. Choose a book that you have recently read. Make sure it is a book that you're passionate about, regardless of whether you like or dislike the book. It's a book review. It doesn't mean it's a book recommendation. Write a 2 to 3 paragraph book review. Make sure to include an introduction, a thesis statement, your opinion supported by examples, and a final reflection or recommendation. When I say you're passionate, it's better to choose a book that you extremely like or you extremely hate, because then you have a lot to say about it. Make sure to use the slides above as a guideline for your book review. So this is based off last week's lesson, which we fully went over. And before we get started with this activity, does anyone have any questions? All right, right now the time is 8:05. We'll work on this honestly until 8:25, so about 20 minutes, exactly like the last activity, and then we'll take up as much as possible during class. If we're not able to take it up, you can find feedback after class. And if anyone has any questions at any point, feel free to ask me. All right, the time is 8:21. Everyone can go ahead and start sending in their responses so we have the last bit of class to go over all of the feedback. All right, I'm just gonna give another 3 more minutes until 8:25. I haven't received any responses so far, but by 8:25, okay, I did start receiving some. Great. All right, David, can you go ahead and read your response?
Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games is a gripping dystopian novel that captures the brutality of survival and the resilience of the human spirit. Set in Panem, a future society divided into the opulent capital and oppressed districts, the story centers on Katniss Everdeen, a courageous teenager forced to compete in a televised death match. Collins masterfully crafts a vivid, suspenseful narrative with moral dilemmas, showcasing Katniss's evolution from a pragmatic survivor to a symbol of defiance against tyranny through intense action and deeply personal moments. The novel expresses themes of power, sacrifice, and the influence of media, offering a thought-provoking commentary on social inequality and exploitation. Collins' writing strikes a balance between fast-paced action and emotional depth, drawing readers into the horrifying spectacle of the games while fostering empathy for its characters. Katniss is a compelling protagonist, driven by love for her family and an unyielding moral compass, which sets her apart in a ruthless world. Supporting characters like Peeta Mellark and Rue further enrich the narrative, offering glimpses of humanity amid the violence. While some plot twists feel predictable, the novel's intensity and emotional resonance ensure its status as a modern classic. The Hunger Games not only entertains but also challenges readers to question the cost of entertainment and the morality of survival in a fractured society.
All right, great job with your response, David. In terms of improving your book review, engage the reader with a unique hook. The opening could benefit from a more engaging or unique statement to immediately capture the reader's attention. Instead of summarizing the novel's premise, consider starting with a thought-provoking question or bold claim about its impact. Because unlike an essay or typically, yeah, a novel reflection, you are here just reviewing a book. So there almost is a need to kind of hook in the audience. Avoid repetition. Certain themes like the brutality of the games and societal inequality are mentioned multiple times. Streamline the review to avoid redundancy, ensuring each point feels fresh and purposeful. Expand on weakness. The mention of predictable twists is vague. Specify which twists fall predictable and why, offering a balanced critique that provides context for readers. Provide more analysis of the themes. While the review briefly touches on themes like power and sacrifice, it could dive deeper into how these themes are developed into the narrative. For example, how does Collins use the games as a metaphor for societal exploitation or media influence? Balance objectivity and opinion. While the review is mostly positive, it could include more nuanced criticisms to provide a balanced perspective, such as exploring whether the pacing occasionally detracts from character development. Because almost every book there is a point you could critique. Conclude with a stronger takeaway. The final sentence is impactful, but could be more specific. For example, summarize why the book resonates with readers today, linking its themes to real-world issues for a more lasting impression. Okay, and I'm sorry, I was muted. Nathan, can you go ahead and read your response?
My book presentation. This book is about Christian going to the celestial city. This book begins with Christian reading a book about his city being destroyed. He follows his path with many traps. His companions with him. He tries to persuade his family, but they don't listen until one of them gets a dream and the rest of the family follows. Christian is very persistent, and he is always willing to go to the celestial city. I would recommend this book because there's a lot of action, but there is a lot of dialogue and some archaic pronouns because it was written in 1672.
All right, Nathan, to further improve on this, you can expand on the plot, provide more detail about Christian's journey, the challenges he faces, and the symbolism of his companions and obstacles. This will give a clearer picture of the story's depth and themes. Clarify themes. Highlight the key themes of the book, such as faith, perseverance, and morality, to help the audience understand its allegorical nature and why it's significant. Engage the audience. Instead of summarizing the plot, consider focusing on one or two key moments or characters that stand out and explain why they're meaningful or exciting. Address the writing style. While you mentioned the Archaic language, you could elaborate on how it impacts the reading experience. Does it make the story feel more authentic, or is it a challenge to modern readers? Strengthen the recommendation. Explain why the actions or lessons of the book are worth exploring and consider connecting to the modern audience. For example, how can readers relate to Christian struggles today? All right, and I still have not received any other responses, just two so far. David and Nathan. The rest of you still have not sent in your responses. Please make sure you are sending in your responses into the chat. It is 8:29, so we're not really going to get the chance to take it up, and that's fine. I will give feedback after class, but please make sure it's sent in the chat so I'm able to do that. Or if not, you can paste it onto the slides. I'm only going to come back to this in the next hour. So you can paste it onto the slides and I'll take a look at it. In terms of your homework, review your work and apply the provided feedback to your writing. Complete your book review. Keep it under 500 words. Review the lesson and make a list of any questions. The writing assignment is based on this prompt called the Christmas clock. I'm just going to go over the details, the requirements right over here rather than the prompt. The requirements are to use sensory details to capture the warmth and wonder of Christmas, both past and present. Incorporate at least two of the following themes: nostalgia, family, self-discovery, or the power of tradition, and end your story with a heartfelt Christmas message or lesson that connects the past to the present. So these are the requirements, and that would be the challenge for this writing assignment. And I see that Annabelle, you sent in your response, as well as Helium. Okay, I'm just going to paste these in. All right, so I'll come across everyone's response. Some of you didn't finish yet. If you do want to use the next bit of time to work on it, you can after class as well. As I mentioned, I will not come back to these until the next hour. Austin, I also wanted to check in to see if you could please go ahead and send in your response. And Ethan, you as well, can you please also go ahead and send in your response? All right, The time right now is 8:31. I know we did extend class just a little bit because of the late start. But before I end off class, does anyone have any questions about the homework or the writing assignment? All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the class. I hope everyone has a great week ahead of themselves. Bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye.